This is a story I found while reading the subreddit r/AskReddit under the title, "What is your scariest true story, serious, from a since-deleted account?" The story has been rewritten with grammatical corrections, but the theme and seriousness of the story have remained intact. Viewer and listener discretion is advised, as the story contains themes of violence and demise. When I was 12, I experienced something that still chills me to this day. It was a tragedy that unfolded in the most unexpected way, and it changed the way I saw the world forever. At the age of 10, I had moved in with my dad after my parents separated. It was a tough transition for me, leaving behind the familiarity of my mum's house, my friends, and everything I had known. My dad had a new life in a town that felt foreign to me, and for a while, I felt like an outsider. I didn't know anyone in the area except for a family my dad was close with. A single mother and her 3 kids. They lived just a few streets away from us. The mother was kind and her children were welcoming, which helped ease some of my loneliness. One of the kids, a girl, was close to my age, 2 years older than me, actually. Though we weren't best friends, over time we started to hang out more often and eventually shared the same group of friends. There was a certain bond that developed, built on the small town we shared and the way we both seemed to be navigating a life that was, at times, confusing. Her house became a second home to me in a way. It was a place I'd go after school, where we'd watch TV or talk about things that felt important in the moment. I can still remember the feeling of warmth in their small living room, the sound of her younger brother playing in the background while we laughed about some joke from school. Life was simple and it seemed like nothing could disrupt that rhythm. But then, that fateful December night came. My friend Rob was over at her house, hanging out with her and her younger brother. They were alone, as their mother was working late that night, something that wasn't unusual for her. Her mum was a hard worker, often taking extra shifts to provide for her kids, and they were used to spending evenings together without adult supervision. It was just another typical evening, or so it seemed. What none of them knew was that there was something sinister lurking beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary routine. Their mother worked with a woman who had a sister. This sister had recently been released from a mental institution, and although people knew of her, no one thought much about it. She was just a name that came up in passing conversations, a distant figure on the fringes of their lives. But what no one realized was that this woman had been watching. She had been asking questions, listening to details, learning about the family's schedule and habits. It was as if she had been slowly piecing together a puzzle. One that would soon lead to unimaginable horror. That evening, there was a knock at the door. My friend, thinking it was her mum returning from work, didn't hesitate. Her mother had a distinctive way of knocking when she came home, a rhythm they all recognized. Without thinking twice, she opened the door. Rob, knowing he wasn't supposed to be there, panicked. He bolted out the window, running as fast as he could without looking back. His heart was pounding in his chest, but he had no idea that his instinct to flee had just saved his life. It wasn't her mother standing at the door. It was the woman, the sister of her mom's co-worker. The one who had learned everything about their family. She forced her way inside, and the events that followed were nothing short of a nightmare. I don't know all the details, and perhaps I'm grateful for that, but I know enough. The younger brother, terrified and confused, managed to escape. He ran to a neighbor's house, banging on the door and pleading for help. The neighbor called the police, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. The woman had brutally slain my friend just days before Christmas. She didn't just slay her, she decapitated her, leaving her body exposed in the bathtub. The horror didn't stop there. The woman had hidden my friend's head somewhere in the house, as if the brutality of the act wasn't enough. The police searched frantically, turning the house upside down. They even sifted through the Christmas presents that were still wrapped under the tree, as if the holiday cheer had any place in that dark and twisted scene. I still don't know exactly where they found it, but they did. In the aftermath, the town was shaken. There was an eerie quiet that seemed to settle over everything, like a blanket of grief that no one knew how to lift. I wasn't allowed to attend her funeral. At the time, I thought it was because I was too young, or because my dad didn't want me to be traumatized by the reality of it all. And maybe he was right, but part of me has always regretted not being there to say goodbye, even if it was from a distance. I think part of me is grateful for being spared from seeing her in that state, but a larger part of me will never forget the darkness that seeped into that December night. To this day, the memory of her demise haunts me. Every Christmas season, I think of her. I think of how excited she must have been, like any kid, for the holidays, how the joy of the season was so cruelly stolen from her. It's something that changed me, something that made me see the world in a way I never had before. I learned that evil exists, not just in the abstract sense, but in the very real, tangible way it can slip into the lives of ordinary people. And that's what terrifies me the most. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. It's never easy to talk about tragedy, but sharing these experiences can help us reflect on the fragility of life and the importance of the moments we have with our loved ones. Stay safe and take care of yourselves and those around you.